10 News Conference. It continues now with former Central Falls Mayor James Diossa, a Democrat running for general treasurer. So I've known you for a while, James, from my work in Pawtucket and Central Falls. And you were termed out. That's the only reason why you're still not necessarily the mayor there anymore. Your term came up. And I remember you telling me you were going to take a break from politics.
I know.
And you're back. So what's the motivation behind this? Why now and why this role?
Look, my journey into elected office is a little different from many. You know, my family came over from Medellin, Colombia in the early 80s, trying to leave a very dangerous time with, you know, the drug cartels and the violence that was happening. And my dad knew at the time that if you wanted to have a family, you know, the United States would be the place where, you know, the American dream could happen.
And did you go straight from Medellin to Central Falls?
No, I was born in Rhode Island.
Okay, so I don't think a lot of people knew that.
So my parents moved here, and I was born. I grew up in Central Falls.
What high school did you go to?
I go to Central Falls High School.
Okay.
And so, you know, going through the public schools in Central Falls, and in a generation, to be able to serve on the city council at 23 and mayor at 27 during some very turbulent times, I think it's a proud moment for my family and myself.
And your wife also is in politics too, in full disclosure, Sandra.
She's a senator.
She's a state senator and also the Commerce Secretary now for the city of Pawtucket.
Correct.
And it's interesting because Central Falls and Pawtucket work so closely together, and you with Mayor Don Grevian, who's about to announce his re-election campaign. Why this position, though? Why state treasurer? Like, what about that role says to you, this is meant for me, and I think it's good for Rhode Island?
Well, in my experience as mayor, I worked very closely with that office during the last two administrations, in particular with the current treasurer. And I've seen how important pensions are to families. If you recall, Central Falls pensioners got their pensions cut 50%, and I've seen the devastation and impact that had on their livelihoods. You know, people who built their whole life around this retiree pension to no longer have it because it got slashed 50%. So in particular, my experience and seeing that, and also
running a municipality.
And running a municipality, balancing budgets, dealing with all these particular issues that mayors deal with, gave me the sense that this is be an office that I could do quite well, build a great team around me, and continue and build upon what every treasurer has done.
And your background's very different from Seth Magaziner, who had a long history, if you will, in investment, strategy, private equity. Do you think you have that experience?
Of course.
The necessary experience you need?
Being a chief executive of a city for 8 years, not only are you balancing budgets, but you're dealing with pensions. And one of our greatest things as a mayor, and my time as mayor in Central Falls, was, you know, working with our unions to move our pensions into the state system. So throughout that process, I've become very aware of what needs to be done. And if I am elected in September and in November, my goal is to work closely with municipalities. As you know, I have a lot of support from mayors in this race, former lieutenant governor, a former treasurer, Paul Tavares, and that support is important. I think they see that I can get the job done.
We've heard some rumors that a certain somebody is going to be announcing at some point that he's going to run too. What do you think some of your biggest challenges are?
I think as a candidate, there's always challenges, but I'm very confident in my track record as mayor and the city council. Remember, I've been in politics now for 10 years, and you know, I've learned so much, not only from the issues of the day, but also dealing with a pandemic, et cetera. But my overall goal is to talk to Rhode Islanders every single day, now that I'm dedicated to this full time, and explain to them and show them that I'm going to continue the...
Their dollars are safe with you?
Yeah, my dollars are safe with you. That I'll continue the transparency, the honesty, and more importantly, that they're going to see important investments happening with their pensions.
Let's talk about investing as far as ARPA funds have been out there. I've been hearing through the grapevine that a lot of folks are hanging on to these ARPA funds because they want the funds to grow and they want transparency, of course. But where's your opinion on that? A lot of people feel like, let's get the money out the door right now. We have a housing crisis. People need rent relief now, not in 2024. How would you help influence other lawmakers when it comes to investing in our local communities, especially we have a $1.1 billion. This is not going to happen again, most likely in our lifetime.
I know, and so if I took my experience as mayor, you know, dealing with the pandemic was very scary. I remember when we first got the first case announced in Central Falls, and I'm reading the newspaper, I'm seeing what's happening in Italy and New York. It was a very scary time, and not only that, many of the issues that we knew about housing, workforce, education,
it was already a challenge.
It was already a challenge. It just got blown up even more. So, my advice or my suggestion to the legislators is, this is a very big fund, as you said, one time. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to make really bold changes. And I'm glad that we've been focusing on affordable housing. I think there's a lot more that we should do. I think that they should involve the mayors in the conversations because, again, they are on the front
And the money
lines.
is trickling down, right?
Exactly.
So I think Pawtucket is getting roughly $58 million of ARPA funding. Central Falls, roughly. I just spoke with Mayor Rivera a couple of weeks ago. I think it's about $6 million,
Correct,
right?
$6 million.
You're kind of the guy as the state treasurer when it comes to how to spend money and invest it. What would you suggest, especially for the cities that were hardest hit by COVID? Providence, Woonsocket, Central Falls. What direction would you give these mayors?
So if, it's a great question. I think, we got to focus more on social services, health services, affordable housing, and education. I think everything else will encompass that. But a primary, based on my frontline experience during the pandemic, those were the areas where I really sat back and I said, okay, we need to focus more on this. And not only just to deal with a pandemic, but for many years to come.
What have you learned from then Treasurer Gina Raimondo and now Treasurer Seth Magaziner as far as things you would do like them if you're elected and things you might do a little bit differently?
Yeah, look, I think both of them had very important roles. I've worked with both of them in their capacity. Gina, we should all feel very proud to have a Rhode Islander in the White House as Commerce Secretary. Sure. And with Treasurer Magazine, I've also, again, worked very closely, trying to get the Treasurer's office to help us with building a new high school, which Mayor Rivera has carried along. Also working to move the pension fund into the state system. I think they've both done a very good job, and I want to continue building upon them. They've done a great job professionalizing the office, being able to be transparent and honest with that office, and I want to continue and build upon that.
All right, any advice for Mayor Rivera? She's brand new to the scene, if you will, in Central Falls. I know you were a big supporter of her when she took over. She was not born in Central Falls. I believe she grew up in Chicago, but she's really hitting the ground running.
Yeah,
Are you proud of her? I mean, how do you feel about
absolutely.
how the city's going under her direction?
It's going great, and I'm very proud, not only for her being the first woman in the history of Central Falls, but she's hit like you said, hit the floor running, and she's a rock star. She's a rock star, and it's not easy being in government. It's not easy being elected office. Yeah, and so a lot of credit I give to people who run for office.
I think a lot of Rhode Islanders don't know a lot about what the general treasurer does. So is there any part of this job that maybe you want to make it more accessible to the average Rhode Islander so they feel like the State House is more accessible to them, especially when it comes to their investment and their tax dollars?
Absolutely. There's different areas that the treasurer focuses on, aside from the pensions, which is the most important piece.
I know everybody talks pensions, but outside of that.
Working on housing issues. I think the treasurer having a seat on the board at the Rhode Island Housing.
Slater Hospital.
Correct, that too. All these issues are important. Victims' compensation, working with cities and towns with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank is important. These are all issues that I'm going to be talking more as the campaign rolls out, and excited to share with Rhode Islanders my story.
And what have you been doing for the past year since you haven't been running the city of Central Falls?
I've been fortunate enough.
A new father.
Correct. I have a 2-year-old who's active and very loving, being very supportive to Sandra, as you know, and working at Brown through the policy lab, and that's been an experience of a lifetime, being able to look at different data and be helpful to my colleagues as far as government experience. And so I just left about 2 weeks ago to focus full-time on this campaign. Okay.
And I asked Deb about this before you came on too. Who are you looking forward to endorse for governor, if you can share that with us?
Fortunately enough, I have the support of the current governor, Dan McKee, long colleagues. Friends with all of them, it's Rhode Island so
it's
small.
Rhode Island, it's
right?
small. Okay, so Dan McKay, it sounds like.
Dan.
Okay. All right. Well, James, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And I'll see you out in Central Falls probably very soon.
Awesome.
And we thank you for being here. Yes.
Thank you.